everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I am Eric.
Eric is calling in by phone.
A special edition.
What's
a
that?
Very special episode of Geekvolution.
It's so special. Well, it's mostly special because we just put up a podcast the other day.
Oh.
And now we're doing another one because today we're doing review. And Eric, what are we reviewing today?
We're reviewing Superman versus the Elite.
That's right. Eric and I have this long-running pastime of doing reviews of all of the DC Direct movies, and this is no reception. This is no exception.
Except
Superman versus the Elite.
I don't see.
I'm sorry.
Like All-Star Superman.
It's 2 a.m. This is going to go great. Okay, so Eric, start us off. You were a lot more excited about this one than me, and explain why.
Well,
did it live up to your expectations?
Well, the thing about me being excited, because I've never read the comic. I actually have it sitting on my computer, and I should have read it for this, but I haven't actually gotten to read it yet, is that I love the Authority, and making this movie just puts me one step closer to an animated Authority movie where they're fighting blue, British, interdimensional rapist aliens. And I want that so much. I mean, like, really, that was my excitement for it, was that the Elite are based on the Authority, and I like the Authority.
Now, are they actually based on the Authority? Because they're entirely different characters.
They're pastiches. Crap, what's the guy's name? Something Black?
Manchester Black, yeah.
Manchester Black is clearly a male version of Jenny Sparks. The chick that flies is clearly a slightly altered version of, now I'm blanking on her name, the flying chick from the Authority. I don't know who the lightning guy is supposed to be. Like, he doesn't really match up with the Authority, and then the hat is the Doctor, who's the shaman on the Authority. It is supposed to be the Authority.
Okay. I am so in the dark on this one. I have no experience with the Authority. I didn't read the issue this is based on. I do have to say though that I think that this is a really cool pick because I think this is the first time they've done a whole movie based on a one shot.
Yeah, and I think that was a really smart move. Well, and you know it's written by Joe Kelly, who wrote the comic.
Oh, that's great because that's why Red Hood works so well.
Yeah, well, and with this, because Red Hood came out like a couple of years after, this came out like 10 years after, and so Joe Kelly said, you know, I'm really excited because I get to kind of go back and touch up and add some scenes I didn't get to add before and all of that.
Well, yeah, because this is one he was able to expand because I'm sure that the one shot wasn't as long as this, and I've not read that either, like I said. So I don't entirely know.
I've skimmed through it. I haven't sat down and read it. I do know that it opens with the Elite having killed a giant monkey, which is not in the film.
No, it's not at all.
I think they replaced that scene with the terrorists, but I'm not sure.
So I gotta say that first off, and let me start out by saying that I watched this about a week and a half ago, and I'm gonna do my best to remember it. I've been working on reviews, and I've watched
this, the night it came out. I happened to be at Walmart, and I saw that they were stocking it, and I was like, oh yeah, it is coming out. And it was a decision between that and Ghost Rider 2, which, as much as I like Ghost Rider 2, I hadn't seen this, so I got this.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to be talking about this somewhat more generally than I usually do, and forgive me for that, but Eric and I didn't get a chance to talk before this. So anyway, my first reaction to this was I think it's the best thing they've put out since Red Hood, and I thought it was wonderfully well paced. And just as far as the story goes, and by the way, I really enjoy seeing these that I haven't read the source material for, because I get to be surprised. And this one was not callable for me. I really enjoyed the ending. I was very taken by it, and I don't know if we want to do a lot of spoilers or not. But this is a story where Superman uses his head and he solves a problem using his brains, and it's a really cool solution. So anyway, I loved it for that. I thought that this was one of the better Superman stories I've seen in a while, and even though, like you said, the original is like 10 years old, I thought that this was extremely poignant for right now. You know,
I think some of that was a little bit updating. I don't think the terrorist thing was in the original issue. I might be wrong.
Well, he did a great job of dealing with, you know, what should Superman be in the 21st century, and can he be what he used to be? And I know that that's been a big theme in a lot of Superman stories lately, but it felt fresh here to me. I don't know if you'll agree with that, but
I thought it worked because, well, and I have a major criticism of the film, which I'll get to, but I thought for the most part, at least on the Superman side of things, it worked because it specifically took a counter, an opposing viewpoint. It wasn't just trying to revamp Superman and try and get across to the audience, look, this is why he's still relevant. It gave the counter opposition. I know that the comic kind of predates it, but it kind of works now in a world of, you know, shooter video games and everything kind of, I mean, video games are kind of currently where comic books were in the 90s, with just everything being grim and gritty. And I think because the Elite kind of represent a little bit that kind of mindset or that idea. So I think specifically creating that opposing viewpoint really helped to make that issue more clear. Like you know, you look at something like Superman Earth 1 and you're like, okay, it's a really great, you know, retelling of his origin and updating, but this clearly gives you the opposing viewpoint. So it's really more about that.
Often what people complain about with Superman, you know, classically, especially these days, is that he's hard to relate to because he's too powerful. And what I dug about this is that he was really sympathetic in two major ways. One of them, and the lesser of the two, I think, is that he was fighting ultimately. I mean, he was originally fighting with the Elite, but when he decided they went too far and he had to fight against them, he was fighting against a group that could potentially beat him. So we've got Superman fighting a physical force that he can't necessarily beat just with his power set. So that's the first thing.
That's something that bothered me. I'm gonna go right into that.
Okay, can we get there in a second?
Well, I meant with him fighting something physically that can beat him.
Yeah. Okay.
Because jumping ahead just a little bit, the Atomic Skull fight, they all get beaten pretty bad by him. The entire team gets beaten by him, and then Superman has to come in and save the day.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
I felt like that took their teeth away. Like when Superman went to fight them, I'm like, well, of course he's going to win. They couldn't even take down Atomic Skull. Oh,
that's a great point. Well, if it weren't for the Atomic Skull, my point would be a great one. But the other, all right, well done. You went on that, but luckily, my second point is the one that I said was more important, and that is that we've got a really great internal kind of conflict going on with Superman, because when the Elite shows up and they start actually killing bad guys, and the whole world seems to be okay with this and accepting them and saying, hey, we have this new kind of superhero that finally is solving our problems for us and not just throwing bad guys in jail so they can come out and kill people again, which is kind of the theme of the whole thing. Everyone is against Superman, to the point where even Lois is, and I loved that.
No, I thought that was great. Although I liked that Lois wasn't... she wasn't, like, violently opposed.
No, she wasn't, but she would give him these looks like, I'm not sure you're right. I think maybe this is okay. And it was very human, you know. I thought that, by the way, this is one of the best representations of Lois in a long time, I thought she was very funny, and I thought it was a really good updated version of her.
I thought she was a great Lois, and more than that, I love that they were together. Just no explanation, just they're together, she knows who he is.
Oh, yeah, and I think that was necessary for the story to work.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. No, I thought Lois was great. I thought she was a very contemporary, updated Lois. I thought she was great.
So those are the big things thematically that I loved about it, just being broad. What was your what is your, let's go right into it. What is your big giant qualm with it?
It cheats.
In what way?
The first time we see the Elite, there's a dog yapping at them and they kill it. And that immediately shorthands they're the bad guys, which to me really undercuts the idea that this is a philosophical difference. And more so than that, at the end, when they're on the moon, I just not understand. I'm less viewing them as the Elite and more viewing them as, you know, a pastiche of the Authority. But when they get to the end and they're on the moon, they say, might makes right. I was just like, well, that's not what you were saying for the rest of the film at all. The whole idea of the Authority, and I assumed behind the Elite, was, look, there's bad people that you're just letting do whatever they want. You're letting the laws get in the way of real justice. And I felt like the film constantly cheated in making them bad. I felt like it wasn't fair in the argument. And that was really what bothered me, was I felt like they really undercut the Elite's point of view, and then even more so by making them all criminals. Like, I felt like the premise should have been a slight bit more cerebral and a little bit more of an intellectual disagreement. And at the end of the day, they were just the bad guys.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I don't entirely think that it's a problem that by the time they get to the moon, they're saying might makes right, because I think that part of the idea was supposed to be, and I think that it might be an okay criticism to say that this happens too fast, but it seems like the idea was maybe supposed to be that by that point they had already let the power corrupt them too much. But then, like you said, there's the whole bit where they were all criminals in their backgrounds anyway. You're right. I mean, even forgetting
that was my big tip off when I first started watching this movie. Is the first scene you see them all in.
Right.
They kill a dog for yapping at it, and I'm like, well, they're the bad guys. You just told me that.
Well, and not to mention just the fact that it would almost have to go out of its way to make them not seem like the bad guys just because of the way they're drawn. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but I mean, they look like a bunch of, you know, B-grade villains.
See, that's something. I think that really only shows up in the chick. I think the three guys, the Hat, Manchester Black, and the Lightning guy. I feel like they could all be some kind of superhero.
Really?
Or
Manchester Black really comes off just in the way he looks. Like, if you just showed me a picture of him and I didn't know what he was, I would just assume he's like a, you know, anti-establishment, anti-hero type guy. You know, anybody who tattoos a flag on their chest, like,
that's still not the bad guy, and because they're absolutely anti-establishment. But maybe part of it is Manchester Black's design is very, very similar to Jenny Sparks. I mean, she wears a Union Jack T-shirt and wears like a white coat over it. Okay, that's actually something that bugs me. If they go out of their way to mention that he has the Union Jack tattooed on his chest, and it never looks like it always looks like a shirt.
Yeah, I was bugged by that too. I had to keep reminding myself that it was that it was supposed to be a tattoo.
But the fact that I don't know, maybe it's because I'm, and this is something I said to you before you even saw the film, because just kind of in a very basic philosophical way, I think you lean more towards the Superman type's ideal, and I lean more towards the Authority. I knew I was going to have more issues with it than you were, but like I look at Manchester Black, and I'm just like, okay, punk rock superhero, go. He doesn't immediately just scream villain to me. And the Lightning guy looked like almost looked like an adult Static Shock.
Yeah. I want to argue with you briefly about the idea that they are just the bad guys, because forgetting for a moment the whole they kill a dog at the beginning thing, because to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know if I was taking a drink or something, but I missed that. Like, I didn't even know that happened. So I need another viewing of this movie because I didn't even catch that.
It kind of happens off screen. There's a dog yipping at it, and they say like, "Oh, it doesn't like you," and then she goes, "Well, I don't like it," and then it cuts to black, and you just hear like the dog yip.
Well, if we can, and I completely understand why that's a problem, and why that just sets them up, as you said, to be just the bad guys. But if we can forget about that for just a second and just look at the rest, at what the ideals are, forgetting that for a second, yes, they all have criminal backgrounds, but let me ask you this: they at the point that they start going around killing villains and, you know, mob bosses and bad guys and things, it seems like still they're trying to only kill whoever they think are bad people, like,
which is why the Might Makes Right line bothers me, is because in the beginning, one of the best scenes I think of the entire movie, and really presents them as kind of a pastiche of the Authority, and really, like, I think the best showing of what they stand for is when Superman is there when they stop the terrorist guy, and he goes, "This man needs to be put on trial," and they just go, "Well, we've already killed all the leaders," and you just see the office full of dead politicians, who are all, you know, corrupt and evil and whatnot. Like,
that sounds consistent to me. They were mightier than them.
Well, I know, but it doesn't seem like they killed them because, oh, we're stronger. Like, it wasn't like they came in and took their land. Like it was clearly the idea of, these are bad guys. This is like Kim Jong-il, you know, type of bad politicians is how it's portrayed.
Yeah, that's right.
And like, they're just like, nope, they're dead. And like, I like that. That is what the Authority does. And I felt like if it was more things like that, where it's shocking and almost a little bit disturbing, and it really comes down to you, the viewer, saying, okay, did they do the right thing or did they do the wrong thing? I think it would have worked better. I feel like a couple of times they just take shortcuts to make you on Superman's side.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think maybe there is some possible interpretation of that line, and I'm coming more, and let me just say this, I am coming more in your direction as you're talking, but I wonder if part of the idea is them saying, "Look, Superman," because I mean, like Manchester Black and Superman had a pretty cool, like brief kind of chemistry. Before, what's that?
I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, I loved how they got along, and I thought that it was the kind of relationship that I've never seen Superman have with anybody before, and I thought it was really interesting. But later on, when we get to the moon part, and we have the whole Might Makes Right thing, I wonder if the idea isn't Manchester Black saying, "Look, Superman, we agree with you in what is right and wrong. What we don't agree with is that you have all the power and you don't use it." The idea being that we have the right ideals of what should be acceptable and what shouldn't, and we agree with you, but you should be using your power in a different way. And so Might Makes Right in the sense that Superman should be killing people.
Well, I don't like that they try to kill Superman. Like if I don't know, like, I feel like the line should have been like something like you know, put him down or something like that. So like when he's like, "We're killing Superman," I was like, but he's not a bad guy. Like, that interferes with what they've been saying the entire time.
But they're probably worried that he's going to stand in their way, and that makes and to them that makes him part of the problem. You're right you're right that at no point do they come out and say that, and that is definitely problematic.
Well, to me, like, and I guess maybe this is me bringing my own expectations into it. But my whole thing was, I was just like, you're just making them the bad guys. I was like, if they really thought this, if this is the kind of superheroes they are, if they are like the Authority, they are not just going to kill Superman because he philosophically disagrees with them. Superman wasn't even stopping them, really. like that's the thing, is that they were just like, oh, you disagree with us? We're tired of you disagreeing. We're going to kill you.
That's a good point. He hadn't really made a plan yet. I mean, well, he had. They just didn't know it, and we didn't know it yet either. But despite all that, yeah, he hadn't really gone up against them. He pretty much just flew up and said, hey, you guys can't do this. And they did it anyway. And actually, he was fighting with them at the point he said that, if I remember right. Weren't they fighting Atomic Skull? And Superman's like, okay, now you guys can't kill him. And they're like, oh, yes, we can. And then they did.
By the way, I love that Atomic Skull.
I do too. Have we ever seen him in an animation before?
Maybe somewhere in the background of Justice League, but not that I recall.
Yeah, I thought he was cool looking.
A little bit too much like Parasite. But I've been told that he was actually originally supposed to be Parasite, and I forget why. I want to say Parasite's going to be in something else or something. There's some reason why they didn't use Parasite. They changed it. I like that they used Atomic Skull, but one of the things that I thought was a cool scene was then kind of undercut. I loved when they cut to, like, when the Elite first show up, they're talking about how bad everything is. It cuts to Atomic Skull in prison being treated bad, and I thought that was supposed to represent, like, look how the system doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then later, it's just to establish that he's there so that he can break out. Which, by the way, why was there a power outage?
Yeah, I wondered that too.
I mean, I guess, and then I didn't like when he came out, the Elite were just getting like tossed around, and then Superman had to come in and save the day. Like, I was like, well, now I know Superman can beat them. But I like that they used Atomic Skull, and I, regardless of how I don't like how they shorthanded making Superman right throughout the film, I thought the ending was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Was phenomenal. When Superman shows up and he's all crazy-eyed, and he's like, "You're right," and everyone gets like you just like see like the world get scared.
It bothered me.
I think that's the best argument for like, no, you don't want Superman to be like that.
Yeah, in a really good way, it bothered me. I mean, I can safely say I have never seen Superman look like that before. And I loved it, and I thought his plan was really good, and I thought it worked quite well. You know, we were complaining about the last movie with all of Batman's plans that made no sense. Superman had a great plan, and it totally made sense. Yay!
Yeah.
So that was really good.
Well, and,
I got to tell you, this is how crazy that last scene was. My kid was playing in the living room, my 2-year-old, while I was watching this, and I had to send him away during that scene.
I thought
because it bothered him. Like, he looked over, he wasn't really watching it, and he looked over and he saw it, and he just had this look on his face like, that's Superman, but he looks scary, and he doesn't look like Superman. And he almost cried, like it bothered him. It wasn't even like a really violent part. It was just like Superman's facial expression. It freaked my kid out.
Well, and something that I really liked that they did was that they used the PG-13 well.
Yes.
And I thought the most genius thing that they did in using the PG-13 is that the Elite swear. And everyone that agrees with the Elite swears. And when Lois is kind of on their side, she swears.
Oh, I didn't
Superman
notice that. That's great.
Never swears. And Lois doesn't swear until she starts kind of swinging more towards their side.
That's an excellent point. That's a lot of why.
A great way to thematically use that.
That's a lot of why I said I thought it was the best one we've had since Red Hood. Would you agree with that? I mean, despite your qualms with it, it's quite good.
I mean, regardless of how I feel about how it's shorthand, it shorthands that they're the bad guy. Taking out just because here's the real thing about that is that that's me bringing in baggage as being an authority fan and what I wanted them to be.
Yeah, and I had no context going into this. I'm reviewing it as a standalone piece, what it is. I've got no context.
As a film, with like taking away that baggage, it's easily the best one we've gotten since Under the Red Hood. I'm even going to say it's probably the best one we've gotten other than the Red Hood. Red Hood's still, I think, the best original DC direct-to-video animated thing we've had in this line.
It's most
But I think
certainly
this is
the
second.
best of the Superman films.
Oh, it's absolutely the best. Well, I haven't seen All-Star Superman yet.
Okay.
But,
well, I'll just say it's better than that. Because and a lot of that's just because All-Star didn't make a lot of sense to make for one of these because it's too short. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
One of the things I thought was really interesting was that I kept, and maybe I was just comparing it to it because I just reviewed it on Rewind, but I was kind of comparing it to Red Hood a lot because it sort of plays with some similar themes in that it's dealing with
very much. Sorry.
What's that?
I said sorry. I started talking. I said sorry.
No, that's cool. I thought it was just like with Batman. It was very much about Superman's ideals and him refusing to cross a line and questioning whether or not he's ultimately making the world a better or worse place because he refuses to cross that line. It was the same thing with Red Hood. If Batman would just kill, and I know some people were tired of this plot, but it worked well there. If Batman would just kill the Joker, then people who get killed by the Joker wouldn't die anymore. And this was dealing with that with Superman, but I don't think it was the same movie. I mean, I don't think it was doing exactly the same thing. It was almost like the Superman answer to that. I'm sorry, was that?
I think that's because Superman's not the same as Batman. So even though it's the same thematic idea, it plays out completely differently. And I loved that because the thing with the Red Hood was that Red Hood brings up, I'm not talking about Riddler, I'm not talking about Two-Face, I'm just talking about the Joker.
Right.
Whereas
yeah.
here they literally make the statement, you keep fighting these guys and they get put away and then they just come right back. It's that idea. It's much more of a larger superhero idea than and I think it works because Superman is the iconic original superhero. Mm-hmm. So I think it's great to deal with just standard superhero tropes with Superman, whereas Batman was very much about Batman and the Joker. This is about that cliche in comic books where they beat the villain, he goes away, and then 5 issues later, Doc Ock gets off on parole.
Yeah.
And that's they make that statement when Atomic Skull breaks back out.
I also think it's interesting to look at this versus Red Hood in how Superman and Batman each deal with this and solve the problems. Because Batman does it by showing Red Hood that he's wrong, and Superman does the same thing. But he does it by Batman does it by letting it play out. And then ultimately, he throws the batarang and the gun misfires. But I mean, he lets it play out. He lets Red Hood fire at him, and we get to see his true colors. And Batman's like, "See, this is why you're wrong." Superman does it differently because he shows the elite that they're wrong by showing them by pretending to give them what they want. I think that's interesting.
Well, and I think it's also interesting and really indicative of the two characters that at the end of Red Hood, it's very, very somber. And it does leave you with the feeling of, did Batman make the right choice?
Yes.
Whereas with this, it's a kind of triumphant ending.
It is, yeah. Yeah. The movie is clearly saying, see, Superman was right. And I don't think it comes down so much like Superman is like 100% right. I mean, I think that it does do a pretty good job of questioning how he operates a little bit because, like you said, he's going up against these really extreme people who ultimately turn out to be the bad guys. So you gotta kind of wonder about that. I mean, because when it's Lex Luthor and you've got the villain who doesn't like Superman because he's not human and he takes away people's humanity just by existing. That's really compelling kind of stuff. And then once again, just like with these guys, what makes him wrong is not his philosophy; it's how he goes about it.
Right. Well, and I think it's just all about like I guess because while I complain that they shorthand philosophically, I think the movie still does kind of look at, well, they do kind of have a point.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best things that was in this film was the son and the father. Do you remember that part?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. The son and the father. What does that mean?
There's the kid, and then there's his father, who I think is like a politician or something. And the kid. Oh
yeah. No, I know just what you're talking about now. Yeah, and and that was really sad. And the kid's father dies, and then he blames Superman because if he had just killed the atomic skull, that was great.
Happened. And when it did happen, I was like, oh no, this is just going to be another. Everyone's going to be like, oh look, because I thought that was the climax. I was like, wow, that was really fast. And I thought that when the dad dies, I thought everyone was going to turn around and be like, no, we can't do it your way because there's casualties. And then when it turns around, this is your fault, Superman. I was like, that's really powerful. Like that's something I think is, again, using the PG-13 really well. Because they never would have gotten away with that, even on Justice League.
No, I agree with you.
I thought that was genius. Do you want to talk about the art style?
Yeah, that's funny. That's just where I was going to go, and I think that should be our final point. We're coming up on half an hour.
Well, actually, that's the final point. Before we get to that, I just want to say,
yes,
the opening credits were fantastic.
Really cool. Yeah, I liked that a lot.
I love that it was like this weird, like, bubblegum punk rock kind of thing, but to classic Superman comics. I thought it was like this great integrating of like the Elite and Superman like together, like kind of the way those like not themes, but like the feel of those two.
The feel, yeah. I thought that they were homaging British Invasion.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that had a lot more to do with Manchester Black than it did the rest of them. I thought it was blending Black with Superman.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and that little Superman short.
That was hilarious. I know. I was dying at that because it looked like.
What was really funny is I popped the DVD in, and my girlfriend was like making food or something, and she sits down just as that starts up. She's like, "This is what you bought." I was like, hold on. It's gonna change.
I loved that it was Rocky and Bullwinkle animation.
Yes. Well, I was thinking. I guess it's still Rocky and Bullwinkle, but I was thinking Dudley Do-Right.
Yeah. Well, I think those are both from the same house, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I think they.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, I'm almost positive like they ran together.
So now that we're talking about that art style, the actual art style of the piece, I was turned off by it at first. I think ultimately it grew on me a little bit as it went along. I want to say, first of all, I'm sorry, but before we jump into that, I was taken aback at the beginning. It took me a while to deal with Superman and these other characters existing in the same universe because they just didn't feel like the kind of people that would exist in mainstream DC.
Which ones?
Just no, the entire Elite.
Well, I think that's intentional.
Yeah, no, it is intentional, and I'm not saying that that's a problem. It just it took me a minute because I was sort of like, well, this feels almost like a inner universe kind of crossover. I had to get my mind around it. It felt, and I know that those aren't Vertigo characters, but I was like, it's like Superman suddenly is in Vertigo or something.
Well, I mean, the Authority's Wildstorm.
It's Wild, right?
Kind of, and the leader basically, but
But anyway,
art style. Really with Superman is that in that little animated short, they have this ridiculous chin, and then it cuts to Superman, and he has that ridiculous chin. I was like, he's got the butt chin, and like to me, like that was the worst part of the Superman design was that chin. I was like, it's too silly. Also, Lois was a little too pedestrian for me. I don't know what they could have done to her, but something about it just made her feel a little bit too plain design-wise.
I know I'm going to get a little bit of flack for this. I felt like in places, and not everywhere, but there were some places where I felt like it was suspiciously anime-esque. And I don't have a problem.
You said that to me, and I haven't re-looked at it to see if I agree or not.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that just on the principle of the thing. It's just that it kind of popped up in certain places and not in other places, and I wasn't sure why that style was a good idea for this movie, because this seemed kind of, well, I was going to say American-centric, but it's not. I mean, it's got, because it's got Manchester Black, and he's British. So I don't know. But I don't know. It was a strange choice to me. And again, it's not just all out and out anime, but there's places where people's faces look really anime to me, and I was just sort of like, I don't know why. Like, but whatever.
The thing about and this is really for all of the DC animated lines. All of the DC animated direct-to-DVD films, they feel muted design-wise. I don't know what it is, but and this is an argument I've gotten into with people time and time again, where I do look at Japanese cartoons and I'm like, why does that cartoon look so much better than look at something like Spectacular Spider-Man? And I was watching one of the documentaries on the first season DVD, and they're talking about how they have to make them look cutesy, or like the term is like condensed squish or something like that. You have to make character models that can move the way that they need it to move, and that's why so many American cartoons will have that kind of cutesy look, like Spectacular Spider-Man. I'm like, but why do you have to do that? The Japanese don't. You look at something like Fullmetal Alchemist or Hellsing or Berserk, like, they don't look like that. Even Disney films don't look like that. And I understand that, especially with Japan, they put a lot more money into their animation than we do. When you're looking at these direct-to-DVD animated films, I feel like they should feel like something special.
Well, and I think they're coming out maybe too often.
Significantly better than what's on TV.
Yeah, but I think they're kind of rushed.
I absolutely think they're rushed. They're putting out 3 of these every year.
Yeah.
They're absolutely rushed, but I feel like I want to sit down and look at these and go, wow, and I don't. And the one that I think it's really going to bother me with is the next one, because they had a little documentary, and there's some like still frames for the next one, and I'm like, that doesn't look good enough. It doesn't look wow to me. I want to look at the animation, just go, like, wow. And I just don't. It just looks, as much as they want to, like, change the style, it all looks generic to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think certain ones have been better about that than others. Again, I know I keep going back to this. I think Red Hood looks fantastic.
I was actually about to bring it up. I think that's the best looking one they've done yet. Especially with the Joker and Black Mask and Ra's al Ghul. I think they all. I think those 3 in particular, like, they don't look like something. There's too many lines on their face for it to be like a TV show. Yeah, the
character models are really strong there. They feel like, I think maybe the test is they feel like models that would be strong enough to continue using for like a regular series. These don't. These feel like they were rushed to make this movie happen.
Yeah, it just gives the whole thing like kind of a. And I know it's weird to say because 3 of them go out of the year, but I want these to feel special. I want these to feel like there's a reason these are going direct to DVD. There's a reason that we're not just making this, on TV.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, but those as much as I think their writing is really bad, the first couple of Marvel direct-to-DVD films looked fantastic.
Yeah, that's right.
Ultimate Avengers is still probably the best-looking direct-to-DVD superhero.
I think Hulk Versus looked pretty great.
Which one?
Hulk Versus?
The Thor half.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about the Wolverine half, design-wise. But
I guess I was thinking about the Thor part. Yeah, but no, you're right. You're right about that. And I haven't watched Planet Hulk, so I don't know what that looked like. But
they look. I haven't seen Planet Hulk either. They look so much better than. And I go to Ultimate Avengers because it's just such. And I don't really care for that film, but it's such a sleek-looking film.
It is. Yeah, you're right.
And the DC ones really, for the most part, aren't. I think, honestly, the best thing that they've gotten is New Frontier. And I feel like New Frontier was kind of a cheat because it's similar to their style to begin with, because Darwin Cook was one of their key designers.
Yeah, that's fair. That was the other one I was going to point to. Yep.
But I feel like with a lot of these other ones, and I don't know if this was because what's his I want to say his name is like, I can never pronounce his last name. It's like Doug Monk. I think he's the one that drew.
Doug Mensch?
This issue. Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's the one that drew this issue of Superman.
I think you're right.
It doesn't look like his art style. Although Red Hood didn't either. But yeah, I just animation-wise, I really, really was let down.
Oh no, I was thinking of somebody else. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name either. Oh, Lee Bear Mayhew worked on that issue.
Who did?
It was penciled by Doug Mankey and Lee Bear Mayhew.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of flabbergasted by that. Well, now I have to buy
it. Their work.
Because I'm becoming more and more like a Lee Bear Mayhew fanboy all the time. I love that guy.
I would love to see one of his things animated.
Oh, wouldn't you, though? Yeah. They should do a Christmas special and do Noel.
I was actually just thinking the exact same thing.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It would be amazing.
Well, anyway.
But yeah, I think we're both just kind of saying the same thing. The animation, or at least for me, the animation, it's not bad. There's nothing that makes it above the rest.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I think too. Ultimately, though, I'm definitely recommending this one. I think it's quite good. It's got problems. It's got more problems than Red Hood, but it's definitely worth watching.
Well, before we just want to jump into that, do you just want to real quick talk about the voice cast?
I don't have anything to say about the voice cast on this one, so go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just going to say that I thought the Superman was really good.
It's the same Superman that was in Justice League.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that's why I liked it. I didn't know that. I was like, this feels like Superman.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the reason I didn't really have anything to say about it, because he's... although I do have to say that whoever the guy is that did Manchester Black, I thought did a really fantastic job, because that can't be an easy part to cast.
No, I really liked him too. I was making jokes beforehand. I wanted each member of the Authority to sound like a different one of the big Authority writers. So I wanted like Grant Morrison and Warren Ellis and Mark Millar. I just wanted them to do impersonations of their voices. I thought that'd be funny.
They should cast one of these with just writers and artists one of these days, just to be hilarious.
Oh, that'd be great.
They just have nothing but writers and artists come in. They should do a really silly one. Like they should go to Marvel and they should make Peter Porker Spider-Ham.
And just have Dan Slott be Peter Porker and Peter David be
the Pun Fisher.
The Peter Porker version of Jameson is, and yeah, or if they were gonna do something silly, they could do an Impossible Man story.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh, how cool would it be if we got an Ambush Bug movie and he goes through the DC universe and each of the characters are voiced by somebody different.
Yeah.
Superman's like Grant Morrison, the Flash is Jeff Johns.
The Flash would have to be Jeff Johns, yes, naturally.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. I guess this is definitely the best Superman animated film we've gotten.
Yep.
Easily out of everything. And I think it's better than the Superman Batman ones too. But
yeah, it is. I mean, I still enjoy those. I think those are better than the other two Superman ones. I'm
not saying they're bad.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. But as far as just the straight-up Superman ones, this had no competition. I mean, it was Doomsday, and it was All-Star, and, All-Star was better than Doomsday, but still, this is heads above that.
Yeah, I think that this is probably the second best thing they've done next to Red Hood. Like I said, I can totally acknowledge that a lot of my issues with it are because I wanted to see the Authority. And that's really what I want.
I'm not going to say it's better than New Frontier.
You're not going to say it's better than what?
I'm not going to say it's better than New Frontier.
I haven't seen New Frontier in a really long time. I own it, but I haven't watched it recently, so I'd probably have to rewatch that. But in my recent recollection, I can say I think, although I guess really time will tell, because every couple of months I pop it under the Red Hood. I guess it'll be interesting to see if I do the same with this.
I think, here's the thing, I think if you go back and watch that, and this is not here nor there, but I think if you go back and watch that, you will find you have fewer things to complain about than you complain about at the beginning of this review.
That's probably true. It's probably one of those things, like, the more I watch it, the less I have to complain
Like, you
about.
might enjoy this more
Especially when I know
aesthetically,
what's coming.
but as far as story-wise and stuff, I don't know. I think you'd be hard-pressed to call this better than New Frontier. You personally.
New Frontier, but,
well, anyway, it's not important.
I think at the end of the day, what I'm saying is go watch Batman Under the Red Hood.
Yeah.
But no, this is good. This is easily, hands down, the single best Superman product we've gotten in the past 10 years in other media.
Wow.
It's better than Superman Returns. It's better than Smallville. It's better than All-Star. See, when I start listing what else came out, it seems less impressive to say that.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? Well, anyway, I'm not going to say it's better than all of Smallville, but... okay, maybe.
I think it's better than most anything Smallville did, outside of the Green Arrow episodes.
Yeah, whatever. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening to this special edition of Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. Erica, every time you come on, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say it's a special, and you're gonna feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and be like, yeah, it's special. No.
Every time you say that, I'm just like, this is a very special episode of Geekvolution.
Well,
in this week's episode, we deal with pedophiles.
Oh God, yeah. We'll act like we're Sesame Street in the late '80s and do the episode about someone dying and explaining what death is. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
in a very special episode of Geekvolution, we deal with alcoholism.
and we'll be reviewing Demon in a Bottle. Well,
hey, that's supposed to happen at some point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, yeah, folks. The joke is, Eric and I have been talking about that for a year now, and we haven't done it. But anyway,
in like November, Cap's like, hey, I just got Demon in a Bottle, and you like Iron Man. We should totally do like a comic book vault. And I'm like, yeah.
And then it never happened. Well, we should do it. Of course, we also should probably finish reviewing Spawn at some point too. But
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
we're all like epic Spawn review, and we reviewed 10.
Yeah, but it was like 3 parts. It was totally epic.
No, it was more than 3 parts, dude. It was like 8 parts. It was ridiculous. Anyway,
I think it was like 4 or 5. But
was it? Well,
yeah.
I don't remember. I've slept like twice since then. So anyway, well, once again, thanks everybody for listening. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And we'll come back again sometime down the road. Hopefully, I can have Eric on a little more often. I say that every time we do this, but hopefully so.
Well, you've been talking about recording our phone calls, tapping my phone.
Yeah, and it just hasn't happened that way because I've always got my kid around and stuff. But anyway, thanks guys. See you later.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.